What is it that makes the guys like Kobe, Jordan, etc. stay that extra mile?
Very easy to answer that. I've never shared this with anybody. This will be the first time. Trauma.
Wow.
Trauma of the loss, trauma of failure. Everyone's had that moment in their life. They've had that traumatic moment, all right? Whether it's mentally or physically, they've had that dark moment. They've had that at some stages in their life that allow them to become that person.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Money Mondays, where we talk about three main topics: how to make money, how to invest money, and how to give it away to charity. Today's guest is one of the few humans on the planet that I look up to in so many different aspects of life. He's a speaker, a mentor, a coach. He doesn't like to say motivational speaker, but he definitely motivates a lot of people, even if he doesn't want to accept it or not. This guy has coached the most elite athletes in history, as long as some of the most elite business people in history. My favorite athlete of all time is Michael Jordan. People like to say, is Michael Jordan, LeBron, who's better? I can answer it for you. It's Michael Jordan. There's no debate between it. The things that Michael Jordan did before there was computer technology, analytics, and 15 different doctors, like Michael Jordan did with blood, sweat, and tears, and with coaching from this gentleman, Mr. Tim Grover.
Woo!
The crowd goes wild.
Hey, go crazy. Hey, Dan, thank you so much, man. What an honor to be here, man. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I've been watching it. I was like, I wonder if he's ever going to reach out to me. I wonder if he's going to give me. Maybe I don't quite make the criteria, but hey, listen, we all got lofty goals. We're going to figure it out. And I got the invite today.
Bam, here we are in real life. So Tim has also wrote a book called Winning. He's wrote a book called Relentless. If you listen to one thing today, go buy those books, please, because there's very few books that I recommend. And I've said this without him in the room. I've said this over and over and over. These are the type of books that you need to read for your life, and then you should reread them again every 1 to 3 years because you need them in your brain. Okay, Tim Grover, give us the quick 2 to 3 minute bio so we can get straight to the money.
You know, it's funny, Dan. You always ask about the bio stuff, and I hate talking about myself. I can talk about you if you want.
I got more.
Yeah, I just like listen. I was with Michael Jordan for 15 years. I got a master's degree in exercise science, a bachelor's in kinesiology. I got every possible certification out there. I've been blessed enough to write 2 best-selling books, coached some of the highest end athletes and business people around that ever play sports. And it's just, you know, in my school hall of fame, it just, you know, those are things it's nice to have on your resume, but just like it's Money Mondays, you always want a little bit more so you can give back a little bit more. Yeah.
So on this episode, I want to talk less about money, even though we don't do this on this show. I want to talk more about investing in yourself and investing in your mind, since you're the most elite coach in my mind. And I work with so many coaches, so many speakers, so many people out there. And when they ask me, who do I think should speak at an event or who do I think they should hire to coach them, I say you 100% of the time.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And so I want to talk more about investing in yourself and investing in your mind. When you deal with someone that is the elite of the elites, you're talking about Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant. These guys are not just household names. They are the legends of the legends of an entire sport that's been around for 100 years. When you're on the court with them, or you're in the room with them, or you're on the phone with them, when it comes to them either pushing back or making excuses or saying they need more time or they have, is there ever a wiggle room with them? And what happens when you have such an elite client that you need to?
Yeah, there's always a little bit of wiggle room, but you got to understand what the circumstances are. It's the amount of wiggle you're going to give that individual. That wiggle has to have a time frame. It has to have a limit. All right, and you have to first understand why they need the wiggle room. What caused them to get off that path for a little bit, and that has to be dealt with. So while they understand, they come to me and say, "Hey, listen, this is what's going on. This is what's going on," and then it's my job to understand why this happened and how it's affecting them and how long it's going to affect them. You know, when you see an athlete, even business people, when they're not producing at the highest level, your employees or whatever it is, most of the time it really doesn't have anything to do with what's going on at work or what's, you know, a baseball player just doesn't all of a sudden forget how to hit a baseball. It's somebody gave them too much wiggle room and didn't put them back on the path. You know, I always say, when's the last time you let somebody off the hook? I won't let you off the hook, because you let somebody off the hook, it's too easy. So there's always got to be a little. Life requires you to wiggle a little bit, but know why you have to wiggle and for how long, and knowing when to put that person back on that path.
I've had staff, friends, associates, followers, etc., that they think it's mean or if I try to reprimand them, or if it's mean if I try to be blunt with them. I think it's mean if I don't. I think if I allow you to be weak, or I allow you to do something wrong, or I allow you to show up at 9:30 when you said you're going to be there at 9 o'clock, I think it's weak of me. And I think it's weak for me to allow them to do it. And I don't think that I'm helping them. Like, when I throw my events, if I say someone's going to be on stage at 9:10, I promise you deep in my soul they're going to be on stage at 9:10. And if I say they're done at 9:40, I don't care how household name they are. At 9:39, they're going to see me like, hey, it's time to go. Because it doesn't respect the other people, and I want there to be perfection up on that stage because it impacts everyone in that room. When you deal with these guys and they get past the wiggle room, they get onto the court, they have a great night, but then in that last moment, they missed that shot. Michael Jordan has one of the best commercials of all time talking about the shots that he missed.
Right.
Championships that he lost. In that moment, when he misses that shot and he gets the phone call from you or you get the phone call from him, what is that first discussion like on the big nights when they miss their shot?
It's never a discussion about the shot. If I have to discuss the shot, that means they're still thinking about it. All right. The greatest athletes, the greatest business people, the greatest individuals out there, the ones that succeed, you know, not only from a financial standpoint, business, whatever it may be, they have the shortest memories. They forget things immediately, just like that. Because if you're thinking about those things, you're not in the next. You're taking something into the next moment. So I tell them, don't think about it, but they don't forget. Like you said with that commercial with Michael, he remembered he remembered every single shot that he missed, every shot that he made, game winner, and so forth. All right, but he doesn't think about those things. He does not think about them. It takes years and years of thinking not to be able to think. You know, you hear this with athletes all the time. That person is thinking too much, or, you know, you're overthinking that decision, business decision that you have to make. It takes years and years of thinking for them not to be able to think. So when you first start off and you miss those shots, yeah, you start to think about it, but now it starts affecting the next one and the next one and the next one. And that's that extra baggage you end up carrying in your mind that starts affecting your performance. I don't want you to forget about it, but you can't think about them. So we don't talk about it. We talk about what's next. That's over with.
We see it happen the most in the UFC. You know, you see someone that has an undefeated record for 7 years, and then someone snaps their leg, or someone accidentally knocks them out, or someone catches them and puts them to sleep, and then they lose 2, 3, 4 matches. And we see it most of the time there because I think that they have this trigger memory now.
Yes.
That they're worried about their leg getting snapped. I think Connor's going to lose to Michael Chandler simply because of the last fight. When his leg got snapped, I think he's scarred forever. And I think he's going to be worried about his leg at all times, especially when Michael Chandler's chasing you down like a crazy bulldog. And so I think in the fighting game, it's one of those games that they lose their next fight because they have that PTSD from something bad happening.
That's why I said they're thinking about it. They are thinking about it. I will just say, you know, if you were thinking about something, you're not in the moment, right? When you're with your, you know, when Tarzan's out here with his animals, yeah, you may have to learn the new things when you get the giraffes and the kangaroos or whatever else are you growing in here. But with the animals that you've already had, you've had that routine over and over and over and over and over again. So you don't have to think about what you have to do. You've already thought about and walked yourself through every possible scenario that could possibly happen through those things. And then that didn't happen today. That happened. It started when you first said, "This is my love." Mm-hmm. And then years and years and years of perfecting the craft over and over and over and over again.
We are co-hosted here with the real Tarzan. This guy's got over 200 million views a month creating content about animal. When you have situations with a snake and you've been bitten by a snake hundreds and hundreds of times and a snake bites you tonight or tomorrow, do you think of that you made an error or a snake is a snake?
I've made an error. I wasn't fast enough, but most of the time I'm getting bit by non-venomous snakes. So as a kid, my first snakes were a boa constrictor. I was getting bit over and over till I didn't want the snake anymore. Parents are like, "Oh no, you begged me for years keeping the snake. You're gonna get bit. And you're gonna figure it out." So once I had a good interaction with the snake, I just duplicated that process again, the same way I held it, how I approached it, and it became like ballet until I had to break dance again. And when you break dance, it's like a snake's coming at you and it's venomous. I just held a 15-foot cobra in Indonesia, middle of the street, no hospital, no anti-venom anywhere to be found. I get bit, I'm dead. You got 30 minutes. But in that moment, you got to slow down, be calm, and think. But I've had thousands and thousands of interactions of experience how not to get bit. Even on that trip, I was there for 30 days. I came across that snake on day 21. If I came across the snake on day 1, I'd have been a whole lot more cautious, but I had time to acclimate, to relax, to settle in. There's no jet lag. I'm getting used to the weather.
Yeah.
Watching other people hold these king cobras. So it's the same thing with crocodiles or rhinos. I've been face to face with crocodiles. I've thought about it a million times. I've hung out with, them a million times. So it's like, in that moment, you got to relax. You got that ballet. It's not breakdance time.
It's that flow. It's that flow state.
Mm-hmm.
It's that flow state. So that's your basketball court. That's your football field. That's your routine. I always say there's 2 routines that people do. There's people that do, and they both create comfort. There's a routine that's done out of boredom, where you do the same thing over and over again. And they're the ones that, when they have that routine out of boredom, when they're handling that venomous snake, they're going to get
complacency.
They're going to get bit because it's out of boredom. They're just like, okay, I'm going to do this thing, and it creates comfort. Then there's a routine out of skill, and it's repetitive over and over again. It's doing that skill over and over and over again, and that's what you've done. That's what the greats do. They do it over and over again. Now it builds a level of comfort through the repetitiveness of the skill. Over and over and over again. It's like shooting that shot over and over again, throwing that pass, knowing how to do that kick or the wing, or, the putting a person to sleep. You get past that thinking stage, and you just know, because your foundation is so freaking strong.
So Tom Brady's down by 10 points. He's on the 5-yard line, and 70,000 people are screaming against him. Michael Jordan, there's 2 seconds left. Everyone knows the ball is going to go to him, and there's 15,000 people hoping that he misses the shot. Same thing for Kobe Bryant, A-Rod, Derek Jeter, all the legends. Mm-hmm. In those moments of extreme chaos and noise and distraction, everyone rooting against you, what would you say to those guys to stay calm and focused?
Well, here's the thing. I hate this adage that's out there. It's like, I perform great under the lights, the bright lights. Those guys never even notice the lights. They don't even notice the lights. They don't know if the lights are blue, pink, if they're on, if they're bright. They don't, because if you're paying attention to the lights, you're not in that moment. You're going to increase your percentage of having an error, of missing that shot, throwing that pass out. You've heard so many times, man, I didn't even hear the crowd. I didn't know what they were saying, what was going on. That's the flow state. That's being in the zone. They don't look at the lights. They don't hear everything. What I tell everyone out there is, don't listen to the shouts of others. Listen to the whisper of yourself. If you can listen to the whisper of yourself, you don't hear the crowd. You don't. And if you notice, quiet under all those moments, you pay attention to the individuals that you just mentioned. They always whisper something. You always hear their lips move just a little bit. If you got to just pay attention to that little detail, they're telling that's how they're quieting the noise. That's when you talked about the calmness. Your stage, your adversaries, your 70,000 things is
they're hissing.
Yeah, I don't know how long that thing is. It's hissing, it's booing, but the difference is that thing can actually kill you. All right. So if you go in there with a chaotic state and you're paying attention to all the people around you, the ones that are holding the cameras up, the ones that are cheering you on and calling you crazy, and what's going on here, and the traffic that's going by, we're gonna be sitting with Tarzan 2 at the next podcast.
So we've heard the stories about Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, certain characters that they're the first ones in the gym and the last ones to leave. And if someone else in the gym, they'll literally wait, keep outworking them to be the last ones. What does it take for that mindset? What is it, the difference between them? These are elite athletes that are in the same gym with them, right? These are elite athletes that are in the same Chicago Bulls, LA Lakers, like the same team has a Scottie Pippen, they have a Shaquille O'Neal, they have other household names. What is it that makes the guys like Kobe, Jordan, etc. stay that extra mile?
Very easy to answer that. I've never shared this with anybody. This will be the first time. Trauma.
Wow.
Trauma of the loss, trauma of failure, trauma of not making the team. Every successful individual, and I'm gonna ask you guys to do this now because this is your show. I want you to share those stories. Everyone's had that moment in their life. They've had that traumatic moment. All right, whether it's mentally or physically, they've had that dark moment. They've had that at some stages in their life that allow them to become that person. I always say this thing is like, I know you don't have kids. Okay. I have kids. So what we've done is everyone's read a fairy tale. Every father, every parent out there has read a fairy tale to their child. All right. What does every fairy tale have? It has a happy ending, but right in the middle, it has a dark moment.
For sure.
Dark storm, dark rain cloud, dark thing, da-da-da. So you think about your life. You think about your life when you had that dark moment, when you had that traumatic experience. How you handle that is the way you're going to handle every situation. Did you run? Did you go back home? Did you freeze? Or did you say, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out. All right. You may have not been able to figure it out in the moment, but you're like, okay, so that officially now you make that transition from you're no longer motivated. It's no longer about needing motivation from other individuals. Now it becomes strictly about elevation. Now you control that flame. You control that switch that's inside of you. And that's what makes those individuals, they're not staying there to constantly think I need to outwork somebody. That's just who they are. That's who they became. That's who they became. We talk about most people, what they do is they put on a mask to become that individual, to become that to become that great CEO, to become the great quarterback. The elite of the elites, all right, they don't have to put that mask on. They put that mask on to calm themselves down, to be that other individual away from themselves. So the mask does not cover who they are. Everyone knows that's that dude. So what was your moment?
Well, I was a kid. I lost my father at 14. And we used to always watch, Animal Planet, Nat Geo. Mm-hmm. He got me my snakes as a kid. He had, chameleons. And he was actually the real Tarzan. So when my dad passed, he was also into sports and basketball, loved Jordan. He actually brought me to see Kobe and LeBron play way back in the day, but once he passed away, it was like, it was an eye-opening thing. I didn't know what to do. I knew I couldn't fill his shoes for basketball or, anything else. So I made a promise to myself to be Tarzan, and when I tell people, at that age, 14, I'm gonna be Tarzan. They're like, bro, what are you talking about? You want to go live with apes and hang out with lions and tigers and elephants, and that trauma I bottled it all in, and my release is going to these jungles where I'm fully vulnerable. Where you ask someone today, what are you most comfortable with, and he gave you a couple answers, but I'm comfortable with death, and in those moments of facing a crocodile or going to see a rhino face to face or being somewhere where there's cannibals or there's no cops or no lights, there's no street lights, there's no electricity, there's no cell phone service. I feel so comfortable, so calm because I'm either going to have a great time or I'm going to die.
There's no in between.
And I've had multiple times where I had a great time because, hey, if I die, I get to go to heaven with my loved ones. Mm-hmm. If I make it, I had a great time in this foreign country where, I get the most viral videos. I feel so alive, and it keeps me going, and I love it.
Yeah. So now, folks, what I want you to do is when you're listening or watching this podcast, during that moment, I want you to zoom in on Tarzan's eyes when he was speaking here. And you'll see how real it is. All right, pay attention. When I tell you, if you can tell how advanced a person's trauma is and how they changed it, where they can utilize it to light their own fire, to control their own flame, just look at the person's eyes. That's special. Dan?
So the reason I've never done drugs and the reason that I work so hard is I had 2 football players that lived with me. One was Ricky Williams, and when he lost his career over marijuana, it opened my eyes up from a business perspective of that was going to be the best running back in history of the world. And it wasn't going to be close, by the way. His records were insane. We went to the same high school together. His college records broke everything you could ever imagine. What he was doing in NFL, he was on pace to break every single record, and drugs changed that. My other roommate, his name was Darryl Russell. He was the second highest paid player for the Oakland Raiders. He was only second to Warren Sapp in the whole league. And we lived together for years. And one night, he's sitting passenger seat in the car and drives in the back of a bus in Santa Monica Boulevard. Gone. And so the driver was on drugs. And so both those things inside of me, I think about drugs and I relate them to death and career loss. And both of those things scare me. And then multiple friends end up passing away from drugs. And then 10, 15, 20 friends pass away from drugs. Too many that I actually don't even know the number. Some of them big names, some of them friends you'd never hear of before. So the drugs part of it, I'm around drugs probably more than anybody on the planet because I travel so much. I'm at events, I'm in nightclubs, I'm in private jets. Everyone's doing drugs left and right. And I've never done it. And you couldn't pay me $1 million to do a drug right now because of what I think about when you say drugs. I think about death and loss of careers of people that were living in my house, right? People that were the only other person in the room next to me is now gone because of drugs. But also when people pass away so young or lose their career so young is why I work so hard every day. Why you also couldn't pay me $1 billion to go sit on the beach forever, or $5 billion, or $10 billion, or $100 billion, because the money doesn't matter to me. I don't buy stuff. The money part's a game for me. I do all the stuff for the game part of it. I am afraid of running out of time because I don't know when I'm going to die.
Yeah.
My life's always at risk because, again, I'm also in nightclubs, private jets, interacting with people all over the world, multi-zillion-dollar deals. One wrong move, one wrong situation, the same way one wrong snake for him. That's it for me.
Yeah.
And so my goal in life and the reason I'm so adamant about every single day, actually, when people ask me the word, it's named after your book. When people ask me what is the one thing that makes me stand out, I say relentless.
Relentless.
Because every morning, noon, and night, no matter what, I'm going to work because I think I'm going to die soon. And so I don't ever talk about it, what the concept of it. I talk about the word relentless because of what it means to me. But it really stems from death. It stems from trauma. And so when you said that you think some of the greats, that's where it came from, I think to me, the reason that I don't think I know, even just talking about it now, the reason that I work so hard and the reason I'm so also pushy for everyone else to work hard is we're going to die. And 50 years, 100 years, you don't know how long it's going to be. That's really short when you really think about it.
It's very, very short. So see, that's why I'm saying everybody thinks everything that happens traumatically to them is a bad thing, and it can be, but it's a learning thing, and it's how you take that learning thing and what you decide to do with it, what you've seen, what you've witnessed, what you've felt. You know, I've seen it numerous times in my family. I've seen it numerous times with my athletes. You know, I always said Michael wasn't the most athletically gifted athlete that I've ever worked with. I worked with many others, but there were other things that other circumstances that had happened in their lives that they just couldn't deal with. That kept pulling them away from what you were talking about. Kept pulling them away from hard work, from being the best they can ever be. So when you talk about death, they were already dead. They were already dead. They just didn't. They were out there breathing. All right. They were still moving. Now here's different characteristics. All right. There's the death of the people that are still that go through those trauma things, and they feel those things. They remember those things. Those are the athletes and business people that really don't succeed. Then what I have is you have what I call the walking dead. All right, the walking dead are those individuals that you cannot destroy. You cannot, because there's a certain thing that's already happened to them. They've witnessed something, and there was like that part of death for them is already done and over. They understand. Both of you guys said something very, very interesting here. All right, neither one, both brought up death. You're like, I'm not afraid to die, and you're like,
I expect to die.
I expect to die. All right, so you get into that category of like where the thought of death and those things, it's basically that's become your Teflon. You've become like zombies to the other things that affect other individuals. It means nothing to you. That now death it's created what I call a dead calm. It's created this calmness about you guys to allow you to continue to do and propel and excel on a daily basis what other people find so hard to do every single day.
So right before we walked into this RV motorhome, there's a friend of ours named @Charlie. Charlie does a lot of great charity work, and he asked me when we're standing in the winery, he said, how do you stay so calm when people screw you over? I said, well, a lot of people I've witnessed die. So I'm unemotional to those things. And I go in expecting that most people suck and don't show up on time. They don't perform on time. And I said, is this your girlfriend? I said, let's say you said you're going to go to dinner. And for a year straight, at 8 o'clock, you said dinner, and she showed up at 8:30 each time. Whose fault is it at some point if you keep getting upset with her on number 7th time, 10th time, 30th time? That's who she is. And why don't you start making the reservation at 9 o'clock and tell her it's 8 o'clock and she's going to be there at 8:30? I go in knowing that a lot of people are going to show up late. I go in knowing that people are going to screw me over. I've had some of my best friends in history steal hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and all these different things. He's witnessed it. Like, my emotion doesn't change. And when I go into a poker game, he's witnessed me win $400,000. I look like this. Lose $100,000. I look like this. Because I go in knowing that sometimes I'll lose, and as long as I win most of the time, I'm a happy camper. You just can't see it on my face. I'm happy to be there.
That's the most dangerous individual too. That is the most dangerous individual. Oh, in a good way. Mm-hmm. In a good way, because there's a person that's that mind over feelings I talk about. Your mind has to be strong. Your mind has to be stronger than your feelings. And the people that have witnessed what you guys have witnessed, your mind becomes stronger than your feelings.
I've kind of jokingly, but been serious on stage when people talk about this. Speaking on stage is technically the number one fear in the world. Snakes is number 2, and then there's obviously other things right after that.
So you know what we're going to do? We're going to speak
on stage
with a snake.
Yeah, I like it.
That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to. Matter of fact, we might go do that after this podcast right now. I'm just going to take another 5 minutes out of their schedule.
and I've said this because I want more people to be able to feel comfortable speaking. Is I don't care what everyone here thinks, because none of you will be at my funeral. When you really think about it, at your funeral, you have like 20 to 100 people at your funeral. That's about it. And it's going to hopefully be in a long, long time from now. And nobody in this audience is going to be at my funeral. And so if a bird poops on my head, and I've said this literally on stage, if a bird pooped on my head right now, I'd wipe it off and keep talking. And I wouldn't giggle. I wouldn't laugh. I wouldn't feel awkward. I wouldn't be like, excuse me. I would just keep talking, because you guys are here to learn business content. Yeah. And if while I'm talking, this microphone goes out, I'm going to throw it on the floor and I'm going to keep talking.
Keep going.
And if all of a sudden there's a rainstorm, we're going to talk through it until you guys can't do it. I'm not getting off the stage under any circumstance. And my emotion won't change. You won't know that there's a rainstorm from me. You won't know that there's poop on me from me, besides going like this, because my job is to do what I can do. And the things that I can't control, I'm not going to be emotional about.
Well, you know why you're so great at that. And I didn't say good. Why you're so great at that? Because what happens is when you can control what you control, it makes the uncontrollable things easier to manage. Everyone says you can't control the uncontrollable, and you can't, but you can manage them as long as you control what you can control. Because now, when that situation happens that you're not aware of, all right, if you don't know how to control what you can control, now the uncontrollable is chaos. All right, you control what you can control. Now the uncontrollable is manageable. There's a huge difference between chaos and manageable. Most people see those situations as chaos. They're looking for that one little thing to throw those things off. You see athletes, they haven't recovered from a missed free throw or something, and it's been, they just like, I'm not shooting the ball anymore. I'm not going to the free throw line. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that.
So every year there are millions and millions of college athletes, and then tens of thousands of them trying to get into these different sports. A few thousand of them get into the league, and a few hundred of them really get any actual position on these NFL teams, NBA, MLB, etc. And then from there, there's a very finite amount that stand out. Like if I said the team name that Tom Brady played on, you might only name 2 or 3 people, even though there's 56 players or 53 players. I can name a basketball team like Chicago Bulls. You name Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and maybe 1 or 2 other guys. The Lakers, the same thing. What do you think the difference is between an athlete, an elite athlete, and a household name legend?
Well, very few, because everybody comes in and say they want to be the best ever. All right. Until you give them what the definition of being the best ever is. You know, and you're like, I want to be the next Tarzan. Okay, well, this is the prerequisite for being
25 years. You got to do this.
Tarzan. This is before you can give you this is what you got to do. All right, forget about the ends, and you just before you can even get the T. This is what, and then people, I'm good. I'm here. You know what? I really don't.
You don't want to get bit thousands of times, do you?
I don't want to go over it. I don't want to go over it. I have this saying. I've said it all the time. I watch an individual get drafted. All right. I watch it and I see what they do, how they treat the commissioner, how they act at the draft, what they do after the draft, and it pretty much determines where. What's going to happen over there? Same thing in the business. They succeed at one event. All right. Now, do they come back to that person and say, I want to do it better? Or are they say, I'm good. I made it. So I say this. When you shake the commissioner's hand, for most individuals, I said, welcome to the last day of your career. Welcome to the last day of your career. When Kobe got drafted, I forget, maybe back then the league, they had 29 or 30 teams. So every other player that got drafted in the first round had a draft party thrown for him. Every single one. Kobe got drafted when he was 17.
Oh, so wild.
All right? He got drafted when he was 17. You know what he did?
Straight to the gym.
Straight to the gym. Straight to the gym. All right. So you just look at it. You just know exactly where these people are going to fall after they sign their contract. Where are they going to live? Who they, like you said, where do they hang out with? What are they doing? Where are their experiences? Do the individuals that they hang around with? Who are they listening to? And it's funny, the individuals that have these, legacy, iconic careers, as they continue to evolve, their circles actually get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. When you Dan, when you talked about your funeral, all right, you said there might be 20 people there. All right. As you become more successful, as you start to create more opportunities for others, as you become more charitable, that number is going to drop. You'll be like, yeah, there might be 10. Then it might be 5. All right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing in the individuals that just kind of get by. The other individuals that get by, you got the individuals that have an okay career, and then you have other individuals that are just like, everybody. Michael wasn't the first pick in the draft. He was number 3. He was number 3, and he wasn't even. And they had to convince him. They had to convince the Bulls to take him because they wanted to take Sam Bowie. They wanted to take another player. Rod Thorne said, "No, this is a player I'm going to draft." When we talked about trauma, that trauma continues. There's a great story of him going to North Carolina. So Dean Smith was his coach, and Bus Peterson was rated the number one player that year, and they both went to North Carolina. So, and Dean put Michael and Bus as roommates, and he goes, "Michael, this is Bus Peter. He's the number one player in the country." And Michael looks at him and says, "He ain't never played me. How could he be number one?" He's never. And Dean would never let them play against each other just because Dean saw that it factor in Michael, and he just wanted to have it continue to grow. So it's all the masterminds and all the coaching and the mentoring ship you do is the ones that make it. And even look at your top business people and even the proteges that you may have working under you. The best ones are the most coachable ones. They're the most coachable ones. And it's crazy. The most talented ones, the ones that have the most accolades, that always want more coaching. Tom Brady always wanted more coaching. Derek Jeter, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Serena Williams. You just look at these individuals. They just, from a business standpoint, this, how many top individuals.
Yeah. Talked to A-Rod today about it. Like, he's still asking advice, even though he's a bazillionaire.
Yeah.
He still wants to learn.
Right. That's their thing. And that has a lot to do with, like, I don't want to leave this earth knowing I could have done more for myself, more for my family, more for others. There's a fear factor about doubt. People are either scared that death either freezes them or allows them to fly. It allows them to fly because they know they only have so many flaps in those wings where they're going to be able to continue to fly. And all of a sudden, like you said, Dan, one day you may go and those wings don't flap. They just don't flap for you.
So I do have to ask you one money question before we end this thing. Around 85% of athletes we've heard in the NFL, NBA, within 5 years go bankrupt. I think it's due to lack of information and the people around them. What are your thoughts about so many athletes, sadly, whether that statistic's true or it's even close, it's still terrible. Even if it was 10%, 20% would be terrible. But anywhere near 85% is a tragedy. Why do you think that happens, and why does it still continue to happen even now in 2023?
Well, one, it is the individual. There's a lot had to do with the way the information that they're getting and the individuals that are around them. So you go from system's a little different now because you can make money you can make a little bit of money in college now through your imaging and so forth. But all of a sudden you go from a lot of athletes, they don't come from a lot. Sure. And then all of a sudden,
here's $20 million.
Bam. And all of a sudden it's just, it's you've had no, that's like you Tarzan on the first day, all of a sudden it's just, okay, you know what? Yeah, you had one snake to manage. You know what? Here's 14 others. And by the way, take care of this ostrich over here. Take care of this. We got this giraffe coming here. We got Boss Hog and her sister coming. And they don't. No one takes the time to, like, okay, let's. This is what you need to do. This is what needs to be in play. And it's what you said earlier. This is very, very important. This is very, very important. Is they don't have individuals around them that tell them when they're doing things wrong. Mm-hmm. That won't call them out. Yep. That because they think, oh, it's going to be endless. They let them get away. They let them get away with things. All right, and it is a fixable problem, but it starts with the individual itself. I give people whenever I have two pieces of advice for anybody that comes into a lot of money, and I don't care whether it's business, you win the lottery, you're a sports thing. I tell people the same thing. Change your number. Learn to say no.
Wow.
There's no explanation. If you have to, after you say no, if you have to explain it, then it's not a no. No is no is a complete sentence. No, period. That's why, everybody congratulates, man, let's go out and party, let's do this.
No. Period.
Change your number, learn to say no. That's it. And because what I've said, and when we did, I talked about this earlier, is the more success you have, everyone says you change. It actually changes the people around you more. Dan, listen, you're probably an individual that, I don't know how much you do for charity. I mean, everything you do is towards a charitable contribution, charitable things over there. All right. And you've put yourself in a position to be able to do that at a very, very high end. All right. Well, I guarantee it. If you made $30,000 a year, you'd still be charitable.
For sure.
All right. So the money didn't change. Dan. It was still, your love for animals is going to be, it's genuine. It's genuine. It's the people around you. Just like when you said, when you talked about, what, you want to be Tarzan, you want to hang around with giraffes, bears, and all this. By the way, you guys have bears here?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Make sure you call me when you have a bear, all right? But they look at you and they're like, well, you haven't changed. You said my dream is this is what's going. And now all of a sudden they didn't believe in you back then. Now all of a sudden they see you doing this thing that's like, I don't know how many people in the world can actually do what you're doing. And all of a sudden, man, can we be a part of this? Can we come over here? They changed. You were the same person. You believed in yourself. That thing changed. They didn't believe in you. Now they saw your success. Now they're like, here it is. Same thing from on your end. You would, regardless of what you would, everything you do now has a charitable component about it. Everything. There's not one thing you don't do. Your mastermind. It was like, I'm giving. It's going to charity. Yep. It's going to, and even if you didn't do that, things are still going to go to charity. And how many individuals you have come up and said, "Damn, why are you giving all this money away? Why?" And then when you give, man, you're such a good guy. And they'll be like, man, I'm not gonna. I wish I could do that. It changes the people. It changes the people around you. That's why you have to say, you got to say no, and you have to keep that circle is going to start to grow and grow and grow and grow. And make it smaller and smaller. And if you want to take care of the people that around you, it has to be within a limit. Because what you said, that career can end any day. Like that, just like in football, your money isn't even it's not even guaranteed. In MMA, you could be the hottest thing, and the next gone. Same thing in basketball. You could be the number one player picked up in the draft, and you're like, yeah, okay, so you made $100 million, but you left $600 million on there, and after the IRS and your agent and everybody else gets there, it's not the same. It's not the same.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I could do this podcast for 19 more hours because Tim Grover is my favorite. We have a couple major requests for you guys. It is important for you to talk about money. We all grew up thinking it's rude to talk about money. We think it's rude to not talk about money because that's why we have a lot of financial crises. People don't talk about apartments, rent, lease, salary. They don't know these things because it's rude to talk about it. It's our goal to change that narrative. So if you could share the podcast with your friends, your family, your followers, etc. Have discussions about money with people. Make sure to follow Tim Grover. Make sure to get Winning, Relentless, both of his books. I promise you it'll change your life. I'm going to try to convince Tim to come back on the podcast multiple times throughout the year whenever I catch him. And we will see you guys next Monday.